right, so we are back. Amber is cracking the whip, getting me working here. So we quit last night with the two wall cabinets, and as I mentioned, what we ran into was the wall seemed like it was kicking out down here at the bottom, and that was pushing this panel out. And I was thinking I was going to have to scribe the back of it, and then scribe to match the floor and all sorts of stuff. I did a little investigation though this morning, and found that when the downstairs of the house was reframed, our framing crew came in and they cut off the bottom of the old studs, which you can see here. There's one of the original studs. So they cut off the bottom of those studs where they came in contact with the original plate because the ends of the studs had gotten wet, just like the plate. So they cut out the plate, cut the bottom of the stud off, went back with a new double plate on top of the new floor joists. And so that was their way of kind of reframing everything, getting rid of all the rot and the unstable framing and everything else, and did a fantastic job. The issue though is that these bottom plates, as you can see, this plate and this plate stick out further than the original stud. And so the drywall was tight to the stud up on top of the wall, but then down here when we got to the bottom of the wall, it was tight to these new plates and this piece of metal angle that supports the subfloor, but not to the stud. And so that's why the drywall kicked out down here at the bottom. So what I've done is gone across the bottom here and did a relief cut right at the level of that double plate on the drywall. And now I'm going to be able to push the drywall back into contact with the stud and put screws in it. And then we'll come down here and kind of patch in with something, maybe some thinner drywall or just insulation board, and tape it off or something. I mean, it's going to be behind the cabinets. Nobody's going to be able to see it, so we don't necessarily have to make it beautiful. It just needs to seal, not have any air leaks or anything like that. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to go ahead and put some screws in. I'll push it up against the studs there with my feet and put some screws in it and see if that takes all the bow out of the bottom.
All right, so Chris has measured for all his studs. You want to show him how loose it is there at the bottom? Yes.
It was kicked out quite a bit there.
It was, for sure. She's going to screw that in place.
So I'm going to gradually just kind of, I'll push on it and gradually start putting some screws in and work my way down.
Okay.
You don't want to pull through the paper.
Right.
Just want to dimple. If you pull through, you lose all your pull.
Okay.
On the drywall. It's not to say I don't do it sometimes. I do. Gotta be careful with it. Already making a big difference.
Yeah, that's a lot better. It's okay. So sometimes, like last night, it's good to just walk away from the project, think about it, come up with a game plan, and then come back. Because we were wiped out at the end of the day yesterday. And then fully deflated when we found out that panel was as crooked as it was. So I'm glad you thought to do some investigative work this morning.
Yep, me too.
I like that method, honey. Holding it with your feet.
Works. Again, if you try to pull it in with just the screws, you end up just popping through the drywall.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean if it's pulls through, you lose all your tension.
Right.
And if I started down here at the bottom, it would just pull right through and still have a big hump in it. drywall dust. It's in everything.
All right.
All right, so we got the drywall cut away and screwed into place. And that really sucked it down quite a bit there at the bottom. So we're now looking a whole lot more plumb on the drywall. The floor is still just a little bit out of level right there at the very edge. So I'm gonna have to scrub the very bottom of this thing to make it sit nice and tight against the floor. That way we don't have any gaps or anything weird going on there. So I'm gonna set that up in place here in a minute and go ahead and mark and then cut that down a little bit. But we did go ahead and move our cabinets just a little bit. Sometimes you got to be flexible. We had to move each cabinet over about 1/2 inch. So this one we had to take down, and I had to cut this filler strip down on the table saw. And then this one we just had to loosen up and slide across the ledger board there and screw it back in place. And what that did is allowed us to perfectly center this 36-inch cabinet under the window. We didn't want it to look weird. So it was designed to be perfectly centered, and we found that we were about 1/2 inch off. So we had to move this one 1/2 inch to the left, this one 1/2 inch to the right, which involved cutting down that filler strip on the end. So that's a bit of a pain, but you know what? We got it perfect now. So it's gonna look really, really good. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and sit the next base cabinet in place here. That's a 42-inch base cabinet, and that goes directly below the edge of this one. And then I'm gonna sit our big filler piece in here, that side panel. Go ahead and sit that in place and get it perfectly level and get it perfectly plumb and clamp it to our cabinets. And then once I've got it clamped in place, then I can go ahead and scribe the floor and then cut the bottom of this side panel to match the contour of the floor perfectly. Sounds simple, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and get the 42-inch slit in place and make some marks on our side panel, get that thing cut down, and then we'll be able to go ahead and get that screwed in place. And then once we have it screwed in place, we're gonna be able to set the upper cabinet that goes over top of the refrigerator in place, and then the other side panel gets attached to it. So everything just kind of builds sequentially, but you still have to be mindful of whether or not things are plumb and level and everything as you go. So we had to backtrack a little bit, rearrange, move some stuff, cut the drywall, you know, all those sorts of things just to get it perfect. If we weren't concerned about perfection, obviously we just throw this stuff in here and make it look good with some countertops and walk on. But, you know, we're perfectionists. So we went ahead and got everything moved and got it all situated just the way we want it. And now we can start getting it all mounted in place. So let me get some more work done and we'll follow up. Okay, so more fun and games with the cabinets here. As you can see, I've got our sink base for our farm sink set in place. It's out from the wall because I haven't cut the holes for the plumbing yet. Wanted to finalize everything else before I did that. And then I've got our 42-inch base cabinet sitting in place. We pulled the drawers and the doors off of it just to lighten it up, make it easier to manipulate. Plus, you got to put your screws in through the front of the frame there, screw everything together. So it's nice to get all those out of the way. You won't worry about dinging them. And you can see I've got the panel clamped in place here. And this panel is flush with this side of the cabinet. And then it's going to be flush with this side too. It's not attached to anything here. It's just kind of leaning at this point. That's why there's a gap there, but it'll be attached up there as well. So that's going to build this box. And then your countertop will go, you know, right up to that. There'll be a backsplash and a side splash to protect that. And then on this side, this is where the refrigerator goes. So there'll be another panel right about here at 36 inches. Make sure opening for your refrigerator and another cabinet goes on the wall here. Now the challenge that we've been running into, right now I got everything perfectly plumb and level. So this cabinet, I got shims on the bottom here, you can see. I've got the panel shimmed and I've put a level square everything on it and made sure that all this is perfectly plumb and level. And I've got our panel clamped perfectly flush with the front of the cabinet. So all that stuff looks great. But the issue we run into is over here. You can see it's tight against the wall here, and then it opens up to about 7/16 of an inch up at the top here. And that's just because this wall over 8 feet is out of plumb. So there's really nothing you can do about it. Originally, I was thinking I was going to have to scribe, the back of this panel to slide it in a little bit and tighten that up. But the issue is the front of this panel has to be tight, perfectly flush with your base cabinet. So the base can't go into the wall in it. You can't scribe the back of your base cabinet. I've already cut the sheetrock out, so there's really no way to, push it back into the wall any further than it's sitting right now. So base cabinet is what it is, and the panel has to be flush with that. So there's really nothing we can do about it. Thankfully, right here is the only place you're going to see that gap, and I anticipate that we could get some sort of trim to go right there in that corner to cover up that little bit of a gap. It's anywhere from, I'd say, 1/4 to maybe 3/8 of an inch. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to take a quick break for lunch, and then Amber and I can put our heads together again afterwards, see if we can come up with any other sort of solution there. But I think that's pretty much where it's going to have to be. I don't see any way that we can manipulate that base cabinet, into the wall or scribe the back, cut any of the base cabinet off. I mean, you just can't do it. The base cabinet is what it is. And then the panel has to be flush with that. So I think we're just kind of stuck there, and we're going to have to deal with that gap somehow coming up. I don't know, some sort of piece of trim or something there. So we'll get it figured out. We'll be back.
All right, so we have these 3 cabinets, upper and lower and fridge panel, plumbed and leveled, and Chris is attaching the lower cabinet to the refrigerator base. And then we'll attach the base to the wall, right, honey?
Yes, ma'am.
You've gotten really good at that. Actually, I think you were already good at that.
It's been a fun project.
It makes me nervous every time you do that.
That's why you pre-drill so you don't split the crap out of everything.
Yep.
It's been fun though. We've had to shim the cabinet, scribe the bottom of the
Yes, cut
panel.
cut the top.
Cut the top of it twice. Cut the drywall out and beat it back
Yeah.
and screw it down.
Real quick, fun project.
Yeah. Let's just put this kitchen together real quick.
I thought, truthfully, I thought we'd be finishing up today. At least with the white cabinets. I mean, I knew.
You would think
I
by
know
this point in the project that you would have a little better concept.
I still severely
Reality.
underestimate the amount of time this takes. It's like, come on,
Yeah, I know. What's taking you so long?
slowpoke.
Throw it together.
Ooh.
So just moving the clamp, and then by feel, you just make sure that you're flush
Yeah.
between the 2 panels. And once you feel no resistance there, clamp the mess out of it. Pilot drill it. And run a screw it. There are moments when I'm just expecting the drill bit to go.
I am too, man.
I mean, it's just, with our luck up to this point.
Well, we did on that one, that first raised panel that we put in
Well,
the butler's pantry. We came through the.
because we underestimated the location of the
I know.
panel in relation to the
It's
place
okay.
for drilling, and that if we'd have hit the rail, it'd have been fine.
Yeah,
It came through
but-
that raised panel area, and it was a little thinner there.
It's okay. We fixed it.
We fixed it.
It's down low. No one will ever know.
Our secret. We just told everybody about it.
All right. Well, keep up the good work.
Thanks. All right, so we got our end panel done. It's high pressure, wouldn't it, babe? Amber had visions of screws blowing through. But we got 3 going through this direction. And then on the upper cabinet, we just put them in from the back side here. We used a shorter screw and went directly into the rail on the front of that upper cabinet. So this thing is solid. Not going anywhere. Hey, somebody left a clamp up there. All right, next up we got to do our above the refrigerator cabinet. So we're going to have to cut a cleat and nail that to the wall where we're going to set that cabinet. And then once that's up there, we'll be able to take our other side panel and position it and see if it needs scribed and cut and fiddled with. I hope not as much as the other one.
I don't have a good feeling.
Hadn't been an easy one yet, has it?
No.
This is looking really good though. So once we get that panel and that cabinet up, then we'll be able to move on to sink base. Cut our holes for the piping, set that bad boy, and then there's a space for the dishwasher next to it, and then one more 21-inch cabinet.
Yeah.
And that'll take care of this run. We're gonna get it done tonight?
I hope so.
We're gonna give it a heck of a try, aren't we?
I'm not feeling very confident, but
Awesome. Let's do it.
maybe you'll surprise me. Slowpoke.
I know, it all hinges on me, doesn't it?
No. Yes.
All right, let's see what we can get done here. All right, so we are ready to put that cabinet up on the wall, the one that goes there above the refrigerator. We had to cut down some stock and make some spacers. And you can see there, I used my pin nailer and nailed those to the mounting flanges on the back of the cabinets. The reason we had to do that was because the wall was so out of plumb. And it made a big gap up here. And I measured the gap, top and bottom, and then made the spacers that big. The reason we have to do that, again, is because the cabinet front has to be flush with the panel front. So we're gonna see if those spacers are gonna do the trick. Hopefully I measured correctly, huh, babe?
Yeah.
So
I have full confidence.
So we're gonna put that bad boy up there, see if it's gonna look pretty flush. Flush? Flush? Flush.
Fly.
See if it's gonna look pretty flush.
Fly.
See if it's gonna look fly, and then we'll put some screws in it. Cool.
All right, we're getting the cabinet up. We're still kind of dry fitting it. I guess we're putting in a couple screws, but it still needs finagled a little bit, doesn't it, babe?
Yeah, we'll finagle them.
That's good.
So we gotta loosen it up just a little bit.
Okay, get
this
that
lined
flush.
up,
Yeah, that's what we have to
drill that,
clamp. Yeah,
clamp,
and then tighten it back.
and tighten everything up.
Okay.
Here we go. You have to slide a little shimmy back there.
Okay. Good job. How'd that feel? The look says it all.
It's done.
Yeah. Now, do you have to tighten it up back in the back? Wait.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna get this other side piece
Okay.
in position and get it all lined up, see if we need to make any adjustments to it.
Okay.
And then once we get the other side piece mounted, then we'll go ahead and screw everything in tight.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so we got our panel up, and we got it
Good.
temporarily clamped to our upper cabinet, but we do have to scribe the bottom to get it to fit tightly. Push down on the paper here, you can see there's a gap
Yep.
between the bottom of the panel and the floor. So once the paper's out, you'll see this gap there if you don't scribe it. And the reason it's high is because that corner back there is touching on the hardwoods. It's not out here. So what we do is we take our pencil, and you can use a compass if you want to get fancy, but just a carpenter's pencil, depending on how much you got to scribe. Either laying on the flat or up on edge is perfect for scribing. So you just start back here, and you just drag your pencil, keep it in contact
With the floor.
with the floor and the board, and it'll show you exactly what you need to take off. And so it's not much,
Yeah, just a little there.
It's pretty smooth, pretty even all across here.
Wow, just that little bit.
Just that little nibble.
Wow.
If you want to get fancy, you can do a double line, just so you can really see that it's going to touch all the way out to here and fade.
Cool.
So now that'll allow us to take off just the right amount of material, able to get good contact with the floor and not have any gaps against the hardwoods.
All right, perfect. Now we
So
gotta
lay it
take
up
it
there
down.
and cut it off.
All right.
All right, so I got the left-hand side panel on. Let's take a walk over there and check that out. Trying to trip over something and break my neck on the way. As you can see, the wall is still out of plumb. So we just had to run the panel even with the cabinet, which was even with the panel on the other side. I mean, we really didn't have any choice. We couldn't do anything like scribe the back of it, you know, and push it in flush against the wall, because then it wouldn't line up with the cabinet face, which wouldn't line up with this panel. So we're just gonna have to do some creative trim work on the other side. This side, Amber reminded me we're gonna have a tile backsplash, and that's actually gonna cover that up. So you won't see that gap there. And on this side over here, we've got raised panels that go on the side of this thing. And so that'll hide a lot of that. And if we have to, we can always you know, put a little piece of trim in the corner between the wall and the side panel there if we have to. But I'm tickled to death to have this up. When you're working by yourself, sometimes you have to get creative. I needed to bring the level of this cabinet up a little bit, make sure it was perfectly on bubble. So I brought it up a little bit and wedged my 6-foot level under it. So that was my third hand to keep it level while I was getting this this panel screwed to it. So now that I got that done, I can go ahead and fire the rest of the screws in the back of this cabinet, and then this part will be done. Down here at the bottom, I'm gonna have to put a cleat on the floor to secure this side of the refrigerator panel. And we'll do that on the across the inside there, and that'll screw down to the floor, and then this panel will screw to it. And that's what'll keep it nice and straight and even with this side over here. That way it's not looking cockeyed compared to the refrigerator, and it won't flop around. You know, somebody bumps into it, it's not gonna flop around on the floor and scratch the floor. So I gotta build a cleat that'll hide in behind this piece of trim here, and then I'll screw the bottom of the panel to that. You know, on this side we had it screwed to the cabinet, so it's not going anywhere, but over there it's just free floating. So we'll have to build a cleat, and then I'll probably stain it to match. That way it kind of blends into the floor. You're not gonna be able to see much of it. I mean, our refrigerator is gonna fill up most of this cavity, so you're really not gonna see much, but in case anybody peeks in there, all they'll see is a piece of stained wood. All right, very good. I'm gonna fire a couple more screws in the back of this thing, and then we'll call it a day. All right, I got a few more screws in the back of the cabinet there, so that thing is anchored nice and tight to the framing of the house. We do have to build a couple of cleats, like I said, one for down on the floor, and then I got to build a couple of spacers to go in between the back side of that panel and the cabinet. What that's going to allow us to do is keep that thing, again, nice and stable, keep it from flopping around. Later on, we're going to have to anchor those raised panels to it, so we've got to make sure that stuff isn't going to move around on us. And then we'll have to trim that out, and we want to make sure that, again, it's good and stable. So I'll work on that first thing tomorrow morning. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for this evening. Real happy with our progress. We'll be back again tomorrow and give you guys some more details and more action on putting this kitchen together. Really exciting times.